Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the Tearing It Up podcast. We're back on bikes. I'm super excited to talk to Lindsay today of Moonspin. I found out about Moonspin through another podcast guest. So, again, why I love this platform and having these conversations is because it has opened up a network of women that I dreamt of, in doing this. There was people I had on a dream list to talk to, but I also never really imagined then how many more people I'd meet through having guests on the podcast. And that's been through cold outreach to people. And then they're introducing me to 5 more people. And it's this spider web of stuff. So Nora from Neve introduced me to Lindsay. And then at Sea Otter, I got to meet her in person. And that's always so great to meet someone in person before having them on and after. I can't wait to meet everyone in person, but it's always special when we get to talk first in person and then connect over the podcast. But Lindsay, before we dive all the way too far into things, will you tell everyone where you are in the world as you record today?
Yes, thanks, Taryn. I am actually sitting outside at my mom's house in my hometown of Bozeman, Montana. Um, I'm here because my husband and I moved out of our house and we've been renting it out a bit and staying at my mom's house to be able to help support my endeavors with my small business, Moonspin. So that's where I'm joining you from. We'll be back in our house starting in August and kind of looking forward to it. But
I love this. I can't wait to dive a little further into that because I kind of just made a move today. Nothing huge, just things I've done before, maybe left a job before I had another one set in stone because I just couldn't take it anymore. But on that topic of just kind of the sacrifices or risks rather that people take as small business owners or just in life. And, there's some people who are very risk adverse and really don't like to do any of that and have a whole set plan out. So I think some of that will come into our conversation for sure, and we'll reach a lot of you who are on that spectrum in whatever way. Tell us a little bit about Moonspin. Exactly. What is Moonspin? Who's it for? All of that.
absolutely. So Moonspin is my by women, for women plus mountain bike and adventure apparel brand. So really leading with apparel and accessories that are designed for riding your bike in the mountains with, but also for rock climbing, traveling, just existing in the world as an adventurous woman or femme identifying person. And yeah, I kind of have been building it for about 3.5 years now, alongside working my former full-time job, and then really launched about 15 months or so ago. And yeah, been so excited to and honored to be bringing it out in the world and connecting with awesome women and identifying mountain bikers and adventurers.
I love it. I love it so much. And I'm also always curious how and where this all started. So, it depending on the guest and how the story weaves and winds, is how deep we go and how far back we go into things. But I love to kind of pull out how adventure or outdoors really came into your life in the first place. Was this early in childhood, something you were always drawn to, something that came along later in life? But when someone starts a company at all in whatever industry, I'm always wondering what that through line is and how did you get here? So yeah, I'd love to have you take us a bit through that. Obviously, you can give us the cliff notes and whatnot, but where at least did adventure in the outdoors kind of show up in your life first and what made that real connection that stuck with you?
Yeah, absolutely. That's a lot easier question for me to answer than how I came to be running a women's apparel brand. So glad to start there. Yeah, so I was born here in Bozeman, in Montana, in the early '80s, and my mom kind of less so, but my dad a deeply adventurous person. I like to say, the reason I'm from Montana is because of fly fishing. So my parents moved here from Colorado in the '70s because my dad was super into fly fishing. And there's just really world-class fly fishing here. He's also kind of an old dirtbag climber. So yeah, just a childhood of backpacking and rock climbing. And, I don't know that in today's world, my family would have been able to afford to have me grow up skiing at Bridger Bowl. But back
Mm.
then in the '80s, that was within reach for my kind of working class family. So yeah, lots of skiing at Bridger Bowl. And kicking around in the dust. A lot of that too on bikes. So yeah, I like to say I've kind of been mountain biking my whole life in some regard, which includes like I got my training wheels off at the ripe age of 3 and like rolling around on. I grew up near Pete's Hill, which is like this little trail network that actually one of my childhood teachers established in the 80s. So it was like a far cry from what mountain biking has become today in 2026. But when I was 5 years old in the 80s, like I was kind of mountain biking a little bit. So
Heck yeah. Well, I mean, that it has just changed so much. Like, it's very different from what it was even, 15, 10 years ago and whatnot with just the trail systems available, technology on bikes and all of that. So I think that there's many people who relate to like, well, back when I was growing up, just being on dirt, on a bike
yeah,
was
right.
was different and was
Yep.
like considered a different kind of thing. That's amazing and so awesome, and I just can't help but kind of thinking honestly that as millennials, we get a lot of there's always the memes floating around how we've gone through everything, right? All these huge world events, and it's like, wow, give us a break. Like, we're tired,
Yes.
right? But then what you just said gave me a thought that I'm like, wait a second, we are pretty lucky too,
Yeah.
because a lot of us did exist in those times where you could do some of these things. They were a little more accessible to
Yeah.
ski at some of these bigger resorts, and the world looked a little different as far as accessibility for some of these outdoor activities that are now very far out of reach for people for many different reasons. And so I feel like we also got to grow up a lot without technology, but had a
Yeah.
little bit and got it
Yeah.
slowly introduced. So we did
Yeah.
get to experience the quiet, the silence, and being out of touch while then also learning it so that we're now not on the other side out of touch. Like, how do you use this piece of
Yes.
electronic device? Like,
Yes.
I think when it comes to social media trends or something like that, then that's, hard for some people if you haven't actively been using it, but using the technology itself, like you can figure out how to dial any phone. Like
Yeah. Right. Including a rotary phone.
yeah, exactly. There was a rotary phone in my house growing up, and we used it. It was plugged
Yeah.
in. My brother would be on the phone in the hallway on that rotary phone talking to his girlfriend, like sitting in the hallway floor.
Yep. The cord was
So
never long enough.
yeah. Yeah, it's like we had cordless phones, but I just have vivid and like photos and memories of him being in there. It'd probably because the cordless phone would die, so he'd have to switch to the
Yeah.
cord. But
Yeah, no,
yeah.
I'm super grateful to have come up straddling the kinda analog digital
Mhm.
divide, really. Yeah, I feel super grateful for that.
Yeah, I think it's something that we can at least, have those good memories instead of right now it feels like yeah, we're all tired and getting the brunt of all the shit in the world, but it's like, wait, we, I think, had a
Yeah.
good mix of the things of being
Yeah.
exposed and learning some adversity, how to do some things on your own, take some risks,
Yeah.
and not having to rely so much on some other things, but
Yeah.
that also is gonna largely depend on where you grow up and
Yes.
all sorts of things in your life. So, born and
Absolutely.
raised in Bozeman, and
Yep.
you're still there now, but did you,
I've returned and come
I
back.
was gonna say,
I've
that's what I
left
was
and
gonna
come
say, you're
back.
there
Yeah.
now, but and you know what? No shame to anyone who is still in the place they were born and raised and
Oh,
hasn't
yeah.
left. My boyfriend, born and raised in Truckee, he hasn't left, but to go fishing in Alaska, hasn't left
Yep.
long term. My brother's in Tacoma, he hasn't left, and that's up to you. Do you,
Yep.
people.
Yep.
No shame at all. I don't think you have to leave your town for a long period of time. I think we need to explore other places, but it doesn't
Yeah.
mean you have to go
Yeah.
move your whole life. But for the people that
Absolutely.
do and have, and, the fact that you just mentioned you left and returned. So something, called you back enough. But
Yeah.
let's chat about where did you go? What took you away from Montana?
Yeah, I so it is funny that I'm back here because if you I don't know, it was like I had a good thing, but it was also really hard times. I come from like a broken family and, it was just working class background and, the 80s into the 90s. It was just kind of Bozeman was like a depressed, dusty place. And some of the economic challenges of the time were rampant here. And so it's funny that I'm like back here and Bozeman's like such a different place. There's a lot of kind of wealth. But
Yeah.
yeah, if you could have asked me in high school if I'd be that or told me really that I'd be in my 40s living back in Bozeman, like down the street from my high school, I'd have poked my eyes out. But
Yeah.
I promptly left. I went far, far away. I moved to New York for college. Just wanted to get far, far away. And I knew there was like a very different world out there that I just was super hungry to eat up. So
Mhm.
yeah, lived in New York City for almost a decade, went to college and grad school there and with a couple years in between. And not so much mountain biking happening then, but a lot of bike commuting through Manhattan and Brooklyn. And yeah, as soon as I finished grad school, like 4 days after graduating law school, I moved to the Bay Area in San Francisco and spent a few
Okay.
years there.
I have to, since you just like teased it out there, I was gonna say, what did you study in New York? And
Yeah. So I went to college straight out of high school, which, is common. I wish I hadn't. I wish I'd
Mhm.
like lived a little, earned some money, kind of understood more what a college education was for and what it meant.
But
Um,
society puts that on us. You
it
don't know,
does.
especially for
Yeah.
our generation. It and before us, like, I don't even know if it's
Yeah.
how much it's changed now. I think, being a high school coach, it's still like
Oh, cool.
that is the thing. Every senior is like, and junior, it's like, oh, we're applying
Yep.
for colleges. It's still very much pushed
Yep.
that you do it immediately after. There's no talk in the US about like the gap year that happens a lot in Europe or
Right.
anything like that.
Right.
Like no thought that you should take a break. So it's odd to me that it still is pushed so much to immediately out of high school. You're 17, like
I
17,
know.
18, and it's like, go study for something you're supposed to do your whole life, but you
I
have 0
know.
experience into the real world at all. Like, a ton of high schoolers don't even have any, like, have never had a job during school, so they have 0 clue what the workforce is even like.
Yeah, exactly, and then later on, after I'd finished my studies or whatever, and was able to do some more, like, dirtbag travel, I was, like, meeting all these Europeans or Kiwis or Aussies or whatever who were, like, on gap years that had, like they were on their 5th gap year, and I'm like, "What the hell? Why didn't my parents, like, tell me this was a thing?" It was very much like, yeah, valued higher education, which I appreciate,
Mhm.
but, both of my parents do have, college degrees, and my mom ended up going back to school and getting an advanced degree, but they on my dad's side, like, neither of his parents had college degrees, and so
Mhm.
he's kind of like a first generation college grad and, took, like, a non-traditional route and finished his undergrad later. Same thing with my mom, kinda went back to school later after I was, in middle school kind of.
Mhm.
But for me and my brother and sister, it's very much like, "No, like, you're going to college and go to the best school you can get into," which, years down the line, like, I had a great education, but I also had a ton of, student loan debt and, kinda missed out on the opportunity to, like, play around and travel perhaps. Um, and then so I did in a very expensive city and then, like, realized, "Oh, we didn't have any money." And, yeah, I got some merit and need-based, school funding, but ended up kind of on the other side with a great education, but, like, really a ton of student loan debt that in all reality, like, I carried with me until 3 years ago, till the age of 39, right before I turned 40. So it really kind of dictated, my adulthood, both, like, having that education and opportunity it gave me, but also, like, the literal debt, and the consequence of
Yeah.
that, and how I was able to enter adulthood. And yeah, I can jump into that too in terms of, like, yeah, my risk aversion to debt and to
Yeah.
investment and now starting, a business, but yeah, that's
That
that's
is
kinda that.
super interesting because that is something also that, again, thinking about just generational wise, how kind of a negative for, I think, millennials, where we were probably the ones hit hardest with all the student loan. Again,
Yeah,
maybe Gen X falls into that too, but um,
yeah.
I just, yeah, all the stories of so many people being in debt well into their careers, and it's so wild that we put this priority on getting that education even above being financially able or stable. And it's a
Yeah.
very crooked, broken pillar again of our
Yeah.
society, and how we are taught to prioritize things that it's so weird that we think money is, this top thing, the thing that we all need. We have to make the most money possible, yet we're willing to go into such hardcore debt to get there that it's like, wait, this is so uneven. Like,
Yeah.
I may be making a six figure, back then when six figures was like the the
Yeah.
goal,
Yeah.
$100,000 was like
Right.
you were a millionaire, like
Right.
so
Right.
rich at 100 grand a year, and but you're paying off all this debt, so that's not what you're
Yeah.
actually pocketing,
Yeah.
and just again all the like m- smoke and mirrors that were
Yeah.
there for it, because that was, a thing for me that my parents were upfront with, which I knew as well, though, that it's like,
Mhm.
"Hey, we don't have the money, so good luck out there. We'll support you how we
Yeah.
can, but it's gonna be on you to figure out how to make it work." And I know there's a lot of families out there too. That's why people have to go take student loans on.
Mhm.
And the fact that they take so long to pay off, and
Mhm.
then I'm sure I would love to, like, hear what your experiences with, like, that risk aversion and the debt and the idea that it gave you. Because for me, I didn't know anything about debt really, I just knew it existed
Yeah.
and everyone was in it, and so it just felt like
Yeah.
normal. It didn't
Right.
teach me how to not do it, like, "Oh, don't do
Yeah.
that." It was like, "Oh,
Yeah.
this is just what we do."
Yeah.
And so I would love to hear your experience with it and how that has kind of, like, weaved into, yeah, starting your
Yeah.
business.
Yeah, totally. No, it's wild. And so in some ways I'm like a little grateful for it. Like it
Mhm,
showed me like some real practicalities around yeah, just leveraging financing for my education. I took all federal public loans to attend really like quality higher education institutions. And so, kind of leveraging financing for a business, a product based business in like a commercial capitalist context is different, but it's definitely like you could almost say like trauma informed me in terms
mhm.
of the relationship to how I'm financing Moonspin, which in reality is it's self financing. I'm carrying a little bit of credit card debt here and there to kind of leverage some of the bigger expenses smartly, but um, for better or worse, like both because of my history with debt and around my education, but also my interest in exploring a business from a values based perspective and kind of building the business from scratch and from the ground up that I want Moonspin to be taking on investment at this stage, and the kind of quote unquote shortcut boost that it offers, I don't see as a shortcut to building the business that I want Moonspin to be, which is one
Mhm,
that's, ideally kind of, I'm not like a big believer in like bootstrapping and like that kind of individual libertarianism around like lifting yourself up from the bootstraps. But in terms of building Moonspin, like I want to be able to get to that cash flow flywheel that's not falsified by investment, that is
mhm,
actually really self-sustaining and driven by the ability of consumers and community members to be a part of it. And if that's not viable for Moonspin, which I'll learn in probably fewer years than I might think. But if I can't get it to that place and have it be operating on that financial model, it's kind of not a business that I feel like I want to be building. So that's kind of how I'm approaching it. And I think I've lived my adulthood in that way. Like I drive my 2006 Subaru Impreza that I bought cash, several years ago. I've done a lot of like aftermarket upgrades to it. And now it's kind of like my retro pimped ride and I love it. But
yes.
I own a little home that my husband and I did a ton of work to ourselves and that I, totally underutilized the kind of mortgage buying power that was made accessible to me. But I was like, that seems like irresponsible to buy a house of that amount. And so yeah, just kind of a little bit of like an anti-capitalist, like perpetual growth approach to my life and to Moonspin.
Yeah. I think I love it all, and just, like, so honest too about what you're trying to build, and something that I resonate with very deeply because I am so, to a fault, not money driven. like
Mhm.
it is
Difficult.
a problem because I will do a lot for a lot of people or even just, put a lot of effort into things myself without a return on investment, so to speak. So, because I am just so passionate about things and I
Mhm.
just want to help people, and I'll be like, oh, that sounds so cool. Like, what can I do? Or say yes to things, which is something that more recently
Yeah.
happened to me because I was excited and it's a friend, and I just said, oh, absolutely. And didn't even like talk about any kind of agreements or fine prints and
Yeah.
just, I guess it'd been a while since I'd been in that situation, so, w just wasn't thinking about the compensation or anything like that. I was just like, "Yes, this is amazing," and I'm like, "Wow, I thought I was over that stage of, like, just
Mhm.
saying yes to things without thinking some stuff forward," but it's just the way I am, and I just wanna do a bunch and help people and do things, and again, I need to get better at it, but my point being is, like, small businesses or a lot of businesses, I'm sure, start with being values driven. And then I think a lot of that changes because money comes into the picture. One, you need it to operate. And
Yeah.
when your, belt strap starts getting tight, and you got to take what's coming to you, then people start to say yes to these things that maybe they wouldn't have if they didn't have to. And sometimes that means bringing someone in where now they don't have this, it's like their values start to shift
Yeah.
further and further away. Obviously, we know in this country and everywhere there's a lot of businesses that just start because their main goal is to make money. But I
Mhm.
think in the outdoor industry, a lot of the companies have come from a place where it was started with a certain
Yeah.
values and mission and things like that. But again, it's incredibly hard to scale off of values only. And I'm curious how, like, with the investor thing, have you been approached by anyone that you've had to say no to? Or how are you avoiding bringing anyone else in right now?
Yeah.
And lastly, I don't wanna make the question too long, but I guess, like, how, if it came to that point, like, would you be open to it ever? Or are you trying to really just keep it small, self-sustaining, like you said?
Yeah. Yeah, totally. I mean, one part of your question is easy to respond to. No, there's not really anyone knocking down my door being like, "I wanna invest in Moonspin." I mean, there's been some friends and family who have some, some degree of liquid assets that have indicated interest. I think it's mostly out of just, like, support for me and belief in me, like,
Mhm,
as a founder and, see me as someone who's, completely new to this industry and this field, and this set of skills, but really believe in me and just need to be like a tenacious, hardworking, and semi bright person. So just
yeah.
believe in me. But so there's that. I have taken up an offer from my mom for like a small kind of cash flow bridge for an early inventory investment. But I do, I'm also not totally naive. Like I think, a line of credit of some form in the future is absolutely going to be necessary. And so I think
Mhm,
having something that I can kind of tap as needed. Um, I think, I've been warned against kind of like ownership investments at
mhm,
this stage. So people who, don't want like a percentage return, but want a percentage of ownership. Just because if, 3% can sound small now, but you take on a handful of those, and then when Winston is bigger and is operating with more revenue, like that can just quickly kind of be eroded by those
mhm.
investors. So yeah, just kind of feeling it out. It's definitely something that I'm very like inexperienced around, but open to. I want to hold the values, but also not be naive. And I think I'm in this online Slack platform community for outdoor brand founders, which has been incredibly valuable. That's actually where I've really built with Nora from Neve and some other amazing folks. But there was a conversation around this topic in that forum, and somebody respond. The question or the prompt really was around, as a values based business, which so many outdoor small brands are and kind of founder-led brands are, at least to start with, as you
Yeah.
referenced, like how, yeah, as you navigate just the realities of operating a for-profit business, kind of how do you stay true to your values and mission? And one person responded, it was a, a white guy who's like, there's sometimes like the most eye-rolly voices to hear from, but sometimes like the most kind of helpful and thought-provoking voices to hear from, coming from a very different perspective. But he was like, no margin, no mission. And you're like, okay, yeah. I mean, if you don't get to kind of lead with your values and messaging and shift a narrative, if you can't operate successfully at like
Yeah.
just nuts and bolts from the numbers. So yeah, gotta really hold on to that reality, particularly as someone who's worked aside from like a deep um, component of my career in the service industry and bartending. Like I've only ever worked for nonprofits, so it's like a hard pivot,
Yeah.
and when I'm really trying to be transparent with around kind of what I don't know and what's naive and realistic and how to balance all of that.
Yeah, I think it's just so interesting as I definitely don't have a comprehensive understanding of a lot of the like investments and finances at that higher level and whatnot. And I think a lot of us don't, if you didn't actually go to like secondary school for it, because you're not taught in a
No,
regular curriculum about it at
no,
all.
which I think
But
is
when it comes
absolutely ridiculous.
yeah, and that's when I think so many people who start businesses and get to the point where like I need more money and maybe it's just to place an order, right? So take a small
Yeah,
apparel company like yours and like okay, I can afford, this order, the MOQ, the minimum order
yeah,
quantity for these shorts. But if I was able to add these pants or socks or a shirt or
yeah.
something, that would greatly help in selling things. There's more to
Hmm.
offer, but I don't have the money for that. And someone comes along and they're like, "Oh, I'll give you that." And you have your eyes on the prize of like, "I really want to put this out there. This is my baby." And they'll get me there, but we're not looking at that fine print of like, "Oh, but now there's some ownership involved there."
Yeah,
And like you said, it can just snowball, I think, so quickly because people are so passionate about what they're doing and they wanna get it out there that we just look at that money in the
yeah,
immediate, like, thing that we're gonna get.
yeah,
Again, something that's been built into us is that immediate response, right? That we don't take a lot of time and trial and error and figure things out, but when it comes to some of these, you can't. You don't have that time. You're like, "What am I
yeah,
supposed to do I can't go make 20 grand to put this
yeah,
order in, like, a couple weeks." So, I think a lot of people just end up in those situations wishing they knew a little bit more, which is why it's so cool that communities like the one you're in is that Founded Outdoors, the Slack group?
yes, that's it.
Yeah.
Yep, it's fantastic.
Yeah, so product-based businesses in the outdoors, and so all these there's tons of different communities out there for people to find, but that is also why I like, having these conversations with people and doing what I do on the podcast is that someone out there might hear something and like, "Oh, wait, um, should I be doing that? Should I look into this? Should I look
Hmm.
into that?" Because obviously we all have to learn as we go, but if you can get some advice about not taking that wrong step and can save a little bit of the bad for someone else's journey, then I think it's worth it because we're all gonna even if you learn what not to do from someone else, you're gonna make mistakes. Mistakes are gonna
Yeah,
happen. It's not gonna be just an easy route for you, but it can help your journey a little bit more, and it's like, why
yeah,
not help each other kind of move along and not have to go through some of the stuff that we did? And I know it's a mentality of some older people or certain people are like, "Nope, you gotta go through all of the pain that I went through to earn it," quote unquote,
yeah.
and it's like,
Yeah,
"No."
right, suffer through.
Yeah.
No. No, God,
Yeah,
no. And I also
totally.
think, I mean, there is this, like, they're very, pervasive kind of culture and just, status quo of debt and financing and investment in business building and including in the outdoor, industry, and I think that creates an illusion of businesses being more successful than they actually are, behind the
Mhm.
scenes on the books, that I don't want to be kind of, mistakenly kind of disillusioned by or, fall victim to. Nora from Neve and I actually talk a lot about this. We've become really kind of close confidants, and and the realities and the ups and downs, and trying to preserve equanimity, and just like the insanity of trying to build and run a small business. And you never know what's happening behind the scenes and some of these other folks out there, and kind of false illusions of success that can
Yeah.
be put forward, that you need to kind of, don't assume it's like they're not actually successful. They're just being like falsely, lifted up by investment. But you just never know. You never know.
Mhm. Yeah, it's a wild world out there with what we have available to us, all the information at our fingertips, and seeing even when you're just looking at, a friend or something who looks like they're living their best life, like
Yes.
traveling all the time or something, and you're like,
Yeah, the
"Wow, they're
Joneses.
just happy 24/7 and, like, have
Yes.
everything they ever want," but we don't know
Yeah.
that for sure, and I think that some of us are getting better at looking through the lens of that, plus it's
Yeah.
changing a bit where people are being a little more transparent, kinda
Yeah.
showing real sides of things. Everything doesn't have to be so curated on social media now
Yeah.
and perfect and this and that, and those are the stories that I like to see and I like to tell as well, that, like, yeah,
Yeah.
of course we wanna show the good things because we don't always wanna put the bad things out there to the entire world by any means, but it's also very important to have a level of transparency so that
Yeah.
people, and I also think it makes people connect and they know, like, "Oh, well, I don't need to support you because you're doing fine." It's like, "No, no, no,
Right?
please buy the shorts."
Yes. Yeah, right. I'm like, "Tell your friends." I'm always like, "Tell your friends."
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. And, speaking of that, like, okay, we did some law school, grad school, nonprofit work. How on earth did you come to deciding it was somewhere where you wanted to be of making, this apparel for
Yeah.
women and, femme-identifying folks for adventuring and biking?
Yes. Oh, man. So, yeah, a kind of a, pick and choose from a long and storied history of inputs that have led me here. But I mean, I think what you just said alone, like the path that I was squarely like down and on, and is incredibly rewarding, the work that I've been doing in kind of social justice advocacy and philanthropy my whole career. But um, very creative in its own way, intellectually creative, program design and partnership strategy, et cetera. But very kind of not artistically creative, very intangible. I'm a very tactile person, very
Mhm.
tangible, concrete person. And so just operating in this highly cerebral, intellectual, and social justice. I mean, it's a very like intangible line of work. And so just hungry for like a true creative outlet, something super tactile. So those are some like just personal reasons. I don't have any type of formal or barely even like informal kind of training in like product design. Certainly like the industry of manufacturing and apparel manufacturing is new to me. But I got a little $100 sewing machine when I was in college and living in New York, and love to like thrift and like rework vintage thrift clothes, and did that a ton. I also had a small business I started with my twin sister here, like right after I moved back to Bozeman about 14 years ago. She did not have a background in this either, but worked at Mystery Ranch, the backpack company based here in
Oh, yeah.
Bozeman, for a few years. First as just like a floor production line, kind of sewing on the floor, and then made her way up onto the design team. And she and I started an upcycled women's yoga and climbing tank top brand called Lena Wear. So we were literally like upcycling old t-shirts and reworking them into these super cool tanks that we were selling at the farmers market. We had a little Shopify website, and it's funny to look back at how different like platforms and opportunities to market and sell back then were compared to today. But yeah, kind of it's been a little bit of a part of me. I, altered my own wedding dress the night before my wedding, not
Oh my
recommended.
god. That part.
I just yeah, it was
That
bad
was
news.
the kicker to that.
Not recommended. So yeah, it's always been a part of me that was like a little just like underdeveloped, underutilized. So this is just like one big creative outlet for me. And then more externally, like I saw a gap. I experienced a gap as a woman who loves to adventure by bike and ride my bike in the mountains, and especially as I kind of went to turn 40, which is right around the time I started like dreaming up Moonspin. And just Saw myself very underrepresented, very underspoken to and marketed to. I love to drink a beer on the tailgate after a ride, but when that's like kind of the only thing you're seeing in marketing, um, yeah. So there was a combination of factors that just kind of like led me to be like, okay, I want to feel this out for myself and for other women and feminine identifying people out there who are kind of feeling the same.
That's amazing. I love, again, like I said, connecting those dots of like, well, I just altered some thrift clothes and then you started a tank top business. And it's like, like you said, formal experience in manufacturing or like real product design or anything, but just really connected to that creative side, which I think is super important and something that I feel sometimes lacking if I'm ever like,
Yeah.
what you said about the tactile, tangible thing,
Yeah.
that is something I haven't put words to, but that is exactly how I feel and where I'm at. Like, I have a hard time, I guess, kind of finding the path of like, what do I want to do? Because I do have this such a urge for that tangible, like,
Yes.
thing that I'm like, I feel
Yes.
like there's something kind of missing, but I don't know what it is because it certainly doesn't feel like a product with everything like that any ability or creativity that I have currently.
Don't cut yourself short.
But I was just like, "Oh, wow, what a great way to explain what you were feeling inside and needing and what you felt like missing." And then again, connecting kind of these dots of where you're feeling underrepresented. What are your hobbies? What are you like doing? Um, with a lot of these kind of from the ground up stories, starting with like, "Oh, I made my own first. Is that what happened? Did you make your own pair of bike shorts?" Like, let's see how this goes, or where did the first product, like, come from for
Yeah.
Moonspin?
So, I definitely thought I and had plans. I had kind of some of the textile that I wanted to work with. I never actually sat down and built my own prototype, which feels funny kind of with my history of actually sitting at a sewing machine. I have done some altering, like I had a line of Ocotillo tees, Ocotillo design tees through Moonspin, some of which were unisex fit, some of which were cropped. I hand cropped those babies myself. So I actually did sit down with my cover stitcher and do some hard sewing there. It was a limited edition. I think there were like, 40 of those or something that we put out. But yeah, I never actually built my own prototype of like the bottoms that we have, our pants and shorts. I did sketches, I did Pinterest pinnings, and then worked with an actual like product designer who holds that experience and education to translate those into what's called a tech pack, which is kind of the architectural blueprint for apparel. And then had my manufacturing partner build like the first prototype based off of those designs. And then kind of was like, okay, this is the most efficient way to do this because I was working my very like busy, big full time job at the time, a lot of other stuff going on, and me like kind of dinking around at a sewing machine like just wasn't gonna it wasn't the best way to like get me there.
Yeah.
So it's kind of funny to look back on kind of my history with actually sitting in a sewing machine, but kind of like fast forward or like shortcut, cut around that step with Moonspin in some ways.
Which is super cool because I don't think I knew about that even being an option until I talked to Anna from Dirty Birdie,
Yes.
and she was similar, like, didn't make her own pants to put on her body and, like, at a sewing machine, but went through
Yeah.
that route of product design and manufacturing, and then, again, knowing the outdoor industry and talking to a lot of people on this podcast, I was surprised that that was the first time that I really, like, heard about that, and I was like,
Yeah.
"Wow, the more you know," because this makes it
Yeah.
feel way less intimidating to actually start something for people who do have an idea in their head, but yeah, they don't have that experience. They're not buying that sewing machine or don't have the time to sit down
Mhm.
and do it, but something lives in their head and now they just need to get that idea out there that it is possible because for me, that's been, one of the number one blockers in many things is like, well, I don't feel like I can make this myself or don't have the time to or the attention span or something, right? But there's so much
Yeah.
shit floating around in my head. I feel like it's
Yeah.
when you go to get a tattoo or, a logo design and you're talking to that graphic designer or
Yeah.
artist and you're telling them your
Yeah.
ideas and all of a sudden what was in your head is on paper and it's still very
Yep.
much unique to you because it came
Yes.
from you, but you just couldn't put an image to the like, a clear image, I guess. It's, like, kind of like lucid
Exactly.
dreaming.
Yes.
Like
Yeah, totally. I'm tripping. Can you help me?
yeah. Totally. So, I think that's awesome to be able to go that route, and, from what I heard from the Dirty Birdie story, it's obviously not a cheap route to go and can be risky because now you're paying this money, and then, like, what if it doesn't work, right? Or what if the
Yeah.
prototype is a total flop, and where do you go from here? Um And I'm curious, like, how you even found that part.
Yeah.
Like, what brought you to, like, "I'm gonna find someone to design this for me and see
Yeah,
what we can
totally.
do."
Totally. And I listened to Anna's Tearing It Up episode and it was awesome. I was an early adopter. I have one of the OG pairs of the
Oh,
Dirty Birdie
yeah.
carpenter pants and I love them. I was wearing them when we met at Sea Otter. They're like
Exactly, I
my
sent
fancy
that picture
pants.
to
They're my
Anna,
fancy
or I tagged her. Yeah.
Yes. I
Yeah.
love them so much. I wear them all the time. I try to spread all the word about Dirty Birdie and how rad they are. Um, and yeah, I think for me, I took a much more kind of like piecemeal grassroots DIY approach to kind of partnering with experts to help me kind of manifest my lucid dreaming vision for Moonspin and the product. I think Anna went with one of the more like kind of full service consultancies that like really help walk you through the nuts and bolts of design to sourcing to sampling to fitting to to full production run. I ended up going to this textile trade show called Functional Fabric Fair in Portland, Oregon, a few years ago. And that was what I will always consider like the first kind of concrete step I took, the external facing step I took to building Moonspin. I'd done a lot of ideating and Pinterest boarding and writing, talking to friends and family about my vision for the brand and for the ethos of the brand, but also the product. And then, when I went to the functional fabric fair, I actually started looking at textile samples and talking to textile mills and figuring out kind of, what was available and what I would want to then take and use to build into this vision I had for the product. I ended up meeting this young woman there, Bryn Benyon, now Bryn Hansen, her married name, who was a recent grad of the like outdoor product design program in Salt Lake at Utah State or the U of U. I'm not sure which, but this great program that she has a formal kind of education in doing this. And so teamed up with her and just paid her hourly and worked together. She was the one that helped me translate my lucid dream into a tech pack. And then I did I think kind of piece together like the other pieces like I've done like a lot of the all of the kind of trim, so like zippers, thread, even drawstrings, like labels, like all of that kind of trim sourcing myself and coordinating that with the manufacturer and kind of coordinating the timeline of the development of those and getting them all to the manufacturer at the time for sampling. And then you have to adjust the sample after you get back and you're like, this actually doesn't fit how it should. And then coordinating for the like full production run. So it's kind of a wild ride. And I think I've taken a bit more of like a grassroots DIY approach than Anna did in with building Dirty Birdie, but it's been really fun and any errors are my own.
Yeah. But that's maybe, like, the not so fun part. Like, "Hold on. I
Shoot.
can't, like" yeah. "Oh, I can't call anyone about that."
Who messed
Yeah,
this up? Damn it.
totally. There's so much pieces into product that we don't really think about when we
Yeah.
get one, like, seemingly seamless, like, piece of apparel or something, and then you're like, "Oh,
Yeah.
wait a second. There's a
Yeah.
lot of moving parts into this,"
Yeah.
and that is also why, it takes so long to launch new seasons or a
Yes.
business at all, where it's like, "Okay, I
Yes.
was doing this a year plus before I ever got
Yes.
something in my hand," and then it's, like, go time, and you feel like you've already been
Yes.
doing it for 5 years.
Yes.
You're like, "Wait."
It is wild. It is wild. I'm perpetually like, probably a year behind
Yeah.
than ideal.
Oh my gosh. And
Yeah.
so when you got everything figured out, you decided to make your first launch and
Yeah.
get out there into the world. What did you start with? What products did you have for that first Welcome to the World Moonspin launch?
Yeah, so it's hard to, like, accurately answer that question because it's been this little, kind of like one ladder rung at a time. I mean, my husband and I were just kind of laughing about this, like, 2 years ago. I was selling socks to, like, friends and family and, like, some randos who happened to, like, come across Moonspin and take the leap to order. But I partnered with these awesome, women who own the Athletic Community Sock Company out of Portland, Oregon, and that was my first Moonspin product, was a pair of cycling socks in partnership with them. That was a way for me to actually just start building my system. So, like, build trust with consumers to be actually, putting their credit card information into the Moonspin website. It was a way for me to start generating revenue that I could have on the books so that I could write off expenses as I was building, to get the tax write off benefits as I was self funding this like slow burn endeavor. So it was the socks,
I love
and
that.
then
I mean, and
eventually,
another thing that I wouldn't have really even kind of thought about, which blows my mind for knowing what I do know, is, oh yeah, like that building trust. And it can seem
yeah,
hard. I mean, we've heard it, build the trust with your audience before like a launch or something like that. But in the apparel world,
yeah,
seems like the only way to do that is to offer a piece of apparel first. But what a
yeah.
great way to start like that collaboration with someone who is like known and trusted too, to get that name out there, that brand awareness, so to speak.
Yeah, all of the above, and it's funny because, like, back then, my husband was like, "What do you do? Like, what are you doing?" And I'm like, "I'm building," in a way that feels aligned and tenable for me, like working a big full-time job, financially viable as I'm self-funding this. And from there, yeah, I was able to start building customer trust and brand awareness, churning a little bit of revenue that I could then reinvest in this line of hemp blend tops, that I then launched in spring of 25. And then a few months later, dropped my first line of, like, bona fide mountain bike product, which was my Drift mountain bike shorts. And then a few months later, I dropped the pant version of them. And I've done, like, a couple kind of mini collab, kind of micro drops since, like, including the Ocotillo, line that I referenced earlier. And yeah, I'm actually just about to drop their shipping from the factory tomorrow. My hemp adventure shorts. I'm so excited. They're about 2 months
Amazing.
delayed, which I'm learning is, like, right on time.
Yeah.
I'm
Like,
stupid
you
to have
can
thought
now put
otherwise.
that into your future calendar of like, "Okay, it's like when I
Yeah.
go for, like, any uphill adventure, I'm like,
Yes,
"Let's add
yeah.
2 hours."
Yes, exactly, it's so real, and you're, like, stupid not to at this point, right? You're like, "Okay, I know." Um, yeah, that's such a perfect metaphor. So, yeah, they're on their way. We're cresting the summit. And yeah, I'm really excited to launch those and have some other things up my sleeve. So yeah, when people ask me like when, they'll see Moonspin, I'm going to events and stuff, they'll be like, I've never heard of Moonspin. When did you launch? And I'm like, well, I mean, like, I don't know how to answer that question. Basically, I've been dreaming this and building it for over 3 years, but I really kind of launched like just over a year ago at this point is how I answer that. But
Yeah.
there's more behind there.
So you gotta figure out, tailor the question to who's asking it, I
Yeah,
guess, like,
yeah,
who's
yeah.
gonna understand
Yes.
this and who is just like, just wants to give me a number.
Yeah, exactly. I'm have the propensity to overshare too, so it's like, yeah,
Same.
a little over a year ago.
Yeah.
Don't.
Yeah.
They can ask if they wanna know
Exactly.
more.
Totally. I definitely have that tendency too. Again, why I'm here on a podcast,
I
just
love it. I
trying
love
to
that about people, and I love that about you.
Oh, I appreciate that so much. One thing that I often forget to ask people until like the very end of a podcast, or at least towards the end, but I really wanted to make sure to ask you with some time left, is where the name comes from.
Yeah.
Sometimes, the logo has something to do with it. Sometimes it's, yeah, like totally abstract, but obviously yours is tied in a bit more to the name. But yeah, can you tell us
Mhm.
a little bit about where that came from within all the dreaming and all that?
Yes, absolutely. No, that was such a fun and important part of, you know, establishing this brand. And I also don't have a good, like, short answer to that. I'll try to be succinct, but I mean, part
You're
of it is
fine.
I had a puppy, whose name was Dawa, which means moon in the Himalayan language of Dzongkha, the Bhutanese language. I spent a little time in Bhutan and kind of named him after this Bhutanese book about a stray dog in Bhutan. He was a stray dog from Mexico, actually. So his name meant moon, and I actually considered naming the brand Dawa after him and kind of an homage to him. And I'm really grateful that I had some friends and people around me kind of dissuade me from that or kind of invite some reflection around that. One, it's just being like a white American and kind of a lot of
Hmm.
the um, kind of cultural, totally blanking on the word right now, but just
Appropriation.
appropriation. Thank you.
Yeah.
That exists in kind of white American society, but also specifically in the outdoor industry too.
Hmm.
And so I wanted to run with this concept around like the moon though, again, to kind of keep it tied to that initial germ. And then yeah, moon, I think in general, it holds connotations and conceptions around circularity, femininity. It's a little bit enigmatic or ethereal, but also something very concrete. Like we have a moon, it's there. It's something we all share, so that sense of kind of mutuality that the moon represents. And it's always changing and evolving. And then there's like the feminine kind of embedded in it too. And then, yeah, added the spin for like some whimsy, some, obviously like a relationship to biking
Yeah.
and mountain biking and to make it kind of like the yin of or at least like the yang of the moon and the yin of spin and to kind of have that play of like groundedness and motion kind of present in the word. And I don't know if people like here see the word moonspin and pick up on all of that, but hopefully it could kind of like conjure that a little bit even subconsciously. But yeah, that was kind of like my fun process in thinking of a name for the brand.
That's so cool, and that's why I love sharing the story because sometimes we have just an idea in our head where I think a lot of people obviously, like, it's gonna be open to interpretation when you're putting something out into the world of what it is, and sometimes it's pretty point blank, sometimes it's not,
Right.
and so I always love to think about it when it's not just like, "Okay, well, Patagonia," you know? Like,
Yeah,
there's
yeah,
not a lot of, like,
yeah.
ideas that are shooting to me besides, like, one, like, place or something and then connecting
Yeah.
outdoors, whatever. But when it is not that and there's a little more, again, like, open for interpretation, I
Mhm.
like to see where my brain goes and what do I connect it with and whatnot, and so I think it's fun to see what people come up with, and some people don't go deep into things like that like I do, but the connection, like I said, the moon, like, I'm a Cancer, I'm not crazy into astrology or anything, but I know we did just leave
Yeah.
Cancer season. I'm a little bit sad,
Yeah.
but also a little bit happy because it was a wild ride
Yeah.
this
Yeah.
month, with energies and whatnot, but
Yes.
Cancer's ruled by the moon, emotions, femininity, all this stuff. So as you're
Yeah.
talking, I'm just like connecting all those
Mhm.
dots to like, oh my God, yes, like to the femme customers or people or audience you're
Mhm.
trying to reach there. The moon, we're ruled by that. Just cycles, all of it.
Mhm.
I think it's
Mhm.
amazing. And then tying it into like the spin, biking, all of
Mhm.
that. I love the story behind a name, but yeah, somehow I always like get to it a little later than I like intended, or sometimes I get off
Yeah.
a call and I'm like, oh man, I didn't ask what that one was about, and I really want to know. And I've definitely emailed
Yeah.
people after, like, sorry, I got to know for myself, like where this
Post it on
came
your
from. Yeah, totally. Because I just do think all of this stuff, all of the background on a person, the brand, the why, and this and that is what really connects people to each other. It's what connects us to each other as humans in knowing the background of each other. You can have a lot of friends and acquaintances, but I think we've also all had a lot of surface level friends and acquaintances. Um, and that's fine. We need those too. We don't have to go deep into the depths with everybody. But once you do, or you have that conversation with one person that somehow like took a left and you're like, wow, we got a little deeper than I thought. It
Yeah.
opens up like a whole new world of like, wow, I understand you so
Yeah.
much better just from
Yeah.
that like little nugget of information. And I think a lot of that is lacking in like the consumer world, obviously these days, because it's very much just this is what's easy or inexpensive, or there's just these bigger brands now
Mhm.
anyway, or that wasn't like important at all. But I like to think that's changing, and we want more out of the things that we're buying from people, and so to make
Yeah.
those connections is just what is important to me, and hopefully some of you listeners out there to get
Yeah.
connected to these brands and things and find that connection for yourself of why people are out there, and again, coming to the values of, like, this is a true values-driven person and company, so I align with them and wanna support them, like,
Yes.
and let's
Yes.
all do that a little more often in our regular lives too, because I think we have also lost a lot of connection over the years with people, or just as we get older, that tends to happen
Yeah.
as your friends, spread out and life gets busy, and we lose more of those connections we had with people that, like, really share our values, and so I think we have to
Mhm.
just come back to that sometimes, like, "What are my values, and what is this
Mhm.
person's, and is that all aligning?" Because all of a sudden you can just end up at a point in life and realizing, like, Hold on, I've been moving through life without being connected to that.'"
Yes. Yes. And I think it also, comes along with, like, a weaker connection to yourself too.
Mhm. Mhm.
Uh-huh. Yeah, no, thanks for that, Taryn. Maybe it's like a little closing note too. Like, I so appreciate your reflections on that and the opportunity to, yeah, share a bit about myself and my story and, that being an inextricable part of Moonspin's story, right? And, like, I don't want Moonspin to just be about me, but I think the opportunity to share a little bit about me and my thinking behind Moonspin, the values I hold, the worldview I hold, can help others maybe see Moonspin for what it is beyond just, me as the
Mhm,
founder and
yeah.
operator and owner, but and hopefully, like, help them connect more deeply with maybe thoughts or relationships or an experience to mountain biking, perhaps as a woman included, that they didn't maybe have the opportunity to think about or experience because it wasn't kind of being shared or presented or offered to them. So, yeah, thank you.
Yeah. Yeah, I think overall that can definitely help people connect to some things. I think a lot of listeners out there currently do have a connection to the outdoors or bike or something, but it could be just something totally new and different to them that's like, "Wait, let me dive into this activity or hobby a little bit more," and know that there's people out there that support it
Yeah.
really from the ground up, and you're not just gonna, yeah, have to walk into a store and get completely ignored and nothing's here for me.
Yes.
Like, there's no people in this for me.
Yeah.
There's nothing like that I can wear or use or this or that. That it does exist out there. Sometimes it takes a little digging to find that, but that you can go out and do these things and find people who support it and align with you.
Yeah.
And yeah, I just think all that's important, and it's, again, like, a little bit lost on a lot of the
Yeah.
world, unfortunately,
Yeah. Yeah.
but it's so, so, so important, and, I mean, I could chat with you for so long. Everybody, I could
Same.
talk just forever about things, but before we do get out of here, I just wanna make sure that, anything else you have to share with anybody on, 1, where to find Moonspin, and if you have any, like, events or something coming up in person
Yeah.
where people might be able to find you through the summer, through August or whatnot, or into the fall, and just, yeah, where people can connect.
Yeah, absolutely. So you can find Moonspin online at moon-spin.com. Moonspin.com was being squatted on, so moon-spin.com it is. On Instagram at moonspin underscore. That's me behind the Instagram. So feel free to shoot me a DM if you want to connect. If you have any questions about fit or sizing or anything like that, seriously, don't hesitate to reach out. I know it's a big uphill burden to take a risk and try apparel from a new small brand. So I really want to support people in getting set up with the right thing for them. And then, yeah, I am going to be mostly in Bozeman for a few weeks, which is nice. I've been doing a ton of travel, but I plan to be at the Hot Dogger, a super fun community event for fundraising for the Trail Network in Fruita down in Colorado, in Western
Oh,
Colorado.
cool.
I'm also looking at being at Outer Bike, which is in Moab in early November, and then plan to be at the Sedona Mountain Bike Festival. I'm sorry, Outer Bike's early October. Sedona Mountain Bike Festival early November. And if you're in the Bozeman area and intrigued about Moonspin apparel, seriously reach out again through the website or Instagram, and happy to like connect and arrange for you to like try whatever on if you're local too.
Amazing. I love it. Lindsay, thank you so much for sharing all of this with us. And remember, everyone out there, obviously go check the show notes, find new Moonspin, follow along, connect, and reach out to Lindsay directly through that Instagram. You know you're talking to her if you do have any questions at all. I think it's really important because people, don't want to ask the question and try something, and then it's a bad experience when it's like, just ask the question. Ask the question.
Yeah,
It's fine.
yeah, yeah. Or go ahead and order and return if it's not for you. Like,
Yeah,
that's
okay.
fair too.
Yeah.
Too. I get it.
I'll
No,
take
it's a crazy
returns, not a
thing.
bad review, okay?
Yeah, totally. I mean, if you have something constructive to share, by all means,
Yeah.
I want to hear it.
Yes.
Yeah,
But
it's a
none
lot
of
to
this,
figure out. And
I ordered my size and it didn't fit. So I hate the product. Like, well,
right, you suck. You did this wrong.
yeah, totally. Yes, we don't. No. Some real thought to those reviews, folks. Or gently reach out to the founder if it's negative and just leave them that criticism. Hi,
I'm
so I found
all
this.
ears because you can't get it right for everyone, but I
No,
want to hear about your experience. So that's how we grow and learn and adapt. So yeah, thanks, Taryn. This has
amazing.
been so fun. You're so rad. I love what you're doing.
Oh,
So glad
thank
we
you so
connected.
much.
Yeah,
Yes, me
can't wait to
too.
see you in real life, whenever that might be soon too. Yeah.
I need some real life bike connection for sure. Well, everybody out there, thank you so much for listening. Don't forget, check those notes, and we will talk to you next week.